guys, and welcome back to another video on my channel. I know that I say this at the beginning of tons of my videos, but I do live in a house with a bunch of other people, and today it is pretty much a full house, so there isn't really much that I can do about background noise. So if you can hear anything throughout this video, I do apologize, but please just bear with me with that, as again, there isn't really much I can do about it. The topic that we are going to be discussing today is one that doesn't really have too much information, so I definitely think today's video is going to be on the shorter side. However, I also think that this topic is extremely interesting, and I think that a lot of you will find it pretty interesting as well. So with that all being said, let's just get right into today's video. The topic that we are going to be discussing today surrounds an urban legend from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, known as Charlie No Face or the Green Man. This urban legend goes that if you're driving down Route 351 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you could possibly encounter a man who had no face with green glowing skin. It is said that if you caught the sight of this man, he would then begin to chase you down the road. Along with the surfacing of this urban legend came a series of steps that you could take to kind of summon Charlie No Face. Now, this is a very common thing that happens with a lot of urban legends in small towns, but the step-by-step way to summon Charlie No Face or the Green Man would be to drive your car down Route 351 and then park in a tunnel that is located on that road. Once you get into that tunnel, you start flicking your headlights 3 times, and then you would start calling out to Charlie No Face. It is said that after you did this, your car would then stall or refuse to start, and after that happened, that is when you would see the green glowing skin of this faceless man. At the time that this urban legend became popular, there was also several stories that had surfaced about how this person became glowing, I guess, or how this person became to have no face. One of the most popular stories was that this man had had an industrial accident, and that resulted in him having this green glowing skin, and it also resulted in him having no face. Another story that often came up that went along with this was that this man wasn't living at all. He had passed away due to an industrial incident, and he was now haunting Route 351, and his skin was glowing and he still had no face. But what is so interesting about this particular urban legend is that it is in fact true, or at least some of it is. And honestly, it is a very, very sad case. This is kind of like the reason that I find urban legends to be so interesting, not because it's sad, but because I do find that a lot of the time when urban legends are surfaced, they usually have some truth to it, kind of like cryptids and other things along those lines. It's not like they just appeared out of nowhere. Somebody did see something, and that is kind of how the legend came apart. Not saying that, you know, like cryptids aren't real and they're just somebody seeing something and taking it the wrong way or anything like that. Just, I do think that a lot of the time people like to dismiss these stories as completely false, when in fact, more often than not, there is some truth to them. The man who was nicknamed Charlie No Face, or the Green Man who haunted Route 351, was actually a man by the name of Raymond Robinson. Raymond was born on October 29th, 1910 in Beaver County, Pennsylvania. In Raymond's early years of life, he was just your average child. There was nothing strange about him. He loved hanging out with his family. He loved going and playing with his friends. One of his favorite things to do was to play at the stream or play in the field with his friends, and for the first 9 years of his life, there was nothing too out of the ordinary with him. He was just your average kid. However, on June 18th, 1919, Raymond's normal childhood would take a devastating turn. On this particular day, Raymond and a few of his buddies headed out to play at the Pittsburgh Harmony Newcastle Railway Bridge spanning Wallace Run. This area was not safe for children to play at. It was not honestly safe for anybody to play with. There was a lot of electrical wires and just things like that hanging, and it was a very, very unsafe area. The children who were with Raymond and Raymond himself were all playing around this area as if it was a playground made just for them. And I'm sure something that we can all relate to is that we have all done things when we were younger that our parents have told us not to. There were several times where my mom would tell me not to go in a certain area or not to do certain things, and I would do them anyways, and I'm sure that's something that we can all relate to. However, in this particular incident, Raymond's actions would not go without consequence. While Raymond was playing in this particular area, he decided that he was going to be a daredevil and climb one of the electrical poles. This particular electrical pole had an electrical line hanging down from it, and unfortunately there was a very tragic accident. Now, this accident was so bad that it wasn't suspected that Raymond would survive, but he did. However, this incident had left him without a right arm, with no eyes, and he also was left with no nose. Because of the amount of pain that this accident would inflict, it is absolutely amazing that Raymond was able to pull through this, especially at such a young age. However, this accident left him so disfigured that it was extremely difficult for him to live a normal life. Especially for that time, I feel like nowadays people are a little bit more accepting, or at least I like to think that. And back then, it wasn't really like that. Like, people were still locking their kids in the basement if they had any disformities, which is sickening, but it just is the way that it was back then. After Raymond was treated in the hospital for his wounds, the hospital actually gave him this like baseball cap, and the cap had glasses attached to it to try and hide his disfigurements. However, Raymond's family didn't really care about his disfigurements, and so he just stopped wearing these things altogether because he was very comfortable with his family, as he should be. Nobody should feel like they have to cover up anything. But yeah, so he stopped wearing those pretty early on. Now, Raymond didn't like to leave his house because of the way that he looked, and he couldn't see, and he had a really difficult time, so he just really hung out with his family. He spent a lot of time with his loved ones, and he started to make things like wallets and doormats to kind of make a little bit of an income without having to leave his home. This part is so sad, but I saw it mentioned several times that Raymond didn't go out during the day, not because he didn't want to go out, but he didn't want to frighten any of the children or the people who lived in the area, so he just avoided going out during the day, and then at night, once dark hit, he would then go for these late nighttime walks down Route 351, because there was less of a chance that he would run into any children or anybody who he would frighten. But one night, while Raymond was walking down Route 351, he encountered a group of teenagers, and after he had this encounter with these teenagers, that is when stories started to spread about this man with glowing green skin that the town nicknamed Charlie No Face. Now, this story started to spread pretty quickly, and once that happened, there tended to be a lot of traffic on this road of people coming to see if they could catch a glimpse of Charlie No Face. This actually got so popular that there was a police officer sent down on several occasions to direct traffic and kind of move people along out of that area. On these particular nights, Raymond would try to avoid that area altogether. He obviously did not want this attention, but on top of that, a lot of people were extremely cruel to him. Sometimes he would run into people and they would throw things at him. There was a little thing that I read saying that he had been jumped on multiple occasions by certain people who just wanted to terrorize him, and they would beat him up. He couldn't see, so that made it even worse. There was even an incident where a group of teenagers came down and Raymond was walking by himself, and at this time he was going somewhere, so they offered to give him a ride to wherever he was going. And once he got into the car, they drove this man to an area that he had never been to before and just left him there, and he had to figure out, without being able to see, without knowing the area, how to get home, which is so cruel. But not all of these encounters were bad. Some of the people who would run into Raymond on the street would pull over, and on some occasions Raymond had ended up befriending some of these people. He said that he really enjoyed the company of some of these people. They treated him really well, and he didn't really like to go to the store. He didn't like to be seen in public, so some of these people would even go out and they would bring him beer and alcohol and cigarettes and little gifts here and there, and he would hang out with them. And so this did make him have friends, I guess, from this whole entire thing. Not all of the encounters were bad, but the amount of encounters that he had that were bad are kind of just extremely mean and cruel, and it's unbelievable how cruel some people really can. It is said by Raymond's family and the people who took time to actually get to know Raymond that he was an extremely sweet guy, and that is really all that there is about him. I dove really deeply into this case. I did all of the research that I could, but there wasn't really much more information that I could find about Raymond or his life or anything like that. But he is the Green Man, or Charlie No Face. He was the person who inspired all of these urban legends that still exist today. Raymond had passed away in 1985 due to natural causes, but like I said already, or like I just mentioned, his urban legend that he inspired still circulates all of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to this day, and some people who don't know the back of this urban legend still think that if they drive down Route 351, there is a possibility that they could encounter Charlie No Face. But guys, that's gonna bring us to the end of today's video. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to comment down below what you'd like to see in my future videos, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos from me. Once again, I'm kind of sorry, I guess, that this video was so short, but I do think that this topic is pretty interesting, so I wanted to share it with you guys anyways. But thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.